Hello, we'll be beginning in just a couple minutes here. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar hosted today by MapleLMS. We first wanted to introduce ourselves. My name is Matt Peterson. I'm a relationship director with MapleLMS. I work very closely with our clients at MapleLMS to partner with them on their training, education, and professional development programs and to help them achieve their objectives around those education programs. Joining me today is my colleague, Avon. Avon, how are you today? Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I'm doing good, man. Thank you. My name is Avon. I'm a key account manager with MapleLMS. I'm also the customer training manager. So I'm mainly responsible for managing customer trainings, onboarding, and providing them a brief training of our solution.
Great. And just a couple of housekeeping items. We do encourage you to ask questions through the Q&A at the bottom of your screen, and we'll answer them at the end of the presentation or as appropriate throughout the presentation. Also, MapleLMS is a certified CAE provider, and today's live call is eligible to receive 1 CAE credit, which can be claimed on the American Society of Association Executives website. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about why your training strategy should be inclusive and comply with accessibility. And just wanted to break down the title of that webinar to define what inclusivity, accessibility, and compliance mean in this context. So when we first talk about inclusivity, an inclusive organization will ensure that members are and feel respected, have a sense of belonging, and are able to participate and achieve their full potential. Secondly, when we talk about accessibility, we need to ensure individuals are able to participate and achieve that potential. And this means this opportunity to succeed should also include those with physical and cognitive challenges. Thirdly, when we talk about compliance, that means your organization is following local, national, and international accessibility laws. Accessibility in online learning matters because it ensures that all students, regardless of any disabilities they may have, are able to fully participate in and benefit from the educational experience. This includes having access to course materials, multimedia content, assessments in a format that works for them, as well as being able to navigate the learning platform with ease. Providing accessibility accommodations helps create a more inclusive and equitable learning environment and supports the success of all students. First, we'll turn to accessibility objectives in online learning. So you want to ensure that your offerings offer an enhanced learning experience for your specially abled learners. You should be adapting your digital learning in terms of the content, the design, and the user experience. You should be fostering an inclusive environment to ensure all are invited to participate in all learning activities and can reach their full potential. Thirdly, you want to ensure you're complying. You'll need to look at local, national, and international laws. You should start with reviewing WCAG, which stands for Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. These are international standards for the internet, ensuring more accessible content, primarily for people who are especially abled. And this includes all devices, including the ever-increasing use of mobile devices such as cell phones and tablets, as well as your traditional desktop and laptop devices. The ultimate objective here is to increase the reach and impact of your learning programs. One of our guiding principles at MapleLMS is to ensure learning for all. We support this goal in a number of ways, and a big part of this is ensuring accessibility and everyone gets the best out of their online experience. When we do this, we are enabling learners to fully immerse themselves in the learning experience, and they're not left out of any activities. We're allowing them to access all materials. We're ensuring they can navigate the learning environment with ease. We're promoting inclusivity that we discussed earlier. Ensure that accessibility accommodations support all with differing abilities to ensure success. You can advance the slide. Okay, and the next one. Some common disabilities that can affect an individual's ability to learn online include visual impairment, such things as color blindness, low vision, and complete blindness, auditory impairments, such as hearing loss, deafness, and difficulty processing auditory information. There could be physical impairments, such as mobility difficulties, dexterity issues, or chronic pain. Some cognitive impairments to be aware of, such as ADHD, dyslexia, and traumatic brain injury, and learning disabilities, such as dyscalculia, dyslexia, or dysgraphia. And there can also be speech and language impairments, such as stuttering, aphasia, and communication disorders. It's important for online learning platforms to be accessible and accommodating to individuals with the disabilities to ensure equal education opportunities. So assistive technology helps learners to learn with their peers with less challenges. You can go to the next slide, Eamon. It refers to any type of technology or device that is used to enhance or support the ability of individuals with disabilities or special needs. So it may include hardware, software, and other tools that can assist with communication, mobility, cognitive functioning, and other aspects of daily life. Examples of assistive technology include screen readers for the visually impaired, speech recognition software for individuals with physical disabilities, and adaptive keyboards for individuals with fine motor difficulties. The goal of assistive technology is really to provide individuals with disabilities the necessary support to fully participate in all aspects of life. So when we talk about how does an accessible LMS help, text-to-speech is a great feature you want to look for. This allows learners to have the content of a course read aloud to them, making it easier for those with visual impairments to access the information. Closed captioning is another one. This feature provides a text transcript of the audio content in a course, making it accessible to deaf and hard of hearing learners. Alternative text descriptions. This feature allows for the addition of descriptive text for images, videos, and other multimedia elements, making the content accessible to visually impaired learners. Also, keyboard navigation. MapleLMS supports keyboard-only navigation, which is especially important for learners with motor disabilities. Color contrast. The LMS provides options for high contrast color schemes, making it easier for visually impaired learners to distinguish between elements on the screen. Then there's also screen reader support. The LMS is designed to be compatible with popular screen readers, including JAWS and NVDA, to ensure that visually impaired learners can use the platform effectively. And certainly not least, accessibility compliance. As we talked about, compliance is important, and MapleLMS follows accessibility standards and regulations such as WCAG 2.0 to ensure that all learners, regardless of ability, can participate in e-learning. These are some of the key accessibility features in MapleLMS that help support specially abled learners and make e-learning more inclusive for everyone. We've been discussing features in LMS to support accessibility, but it's also important to focus on learning content design, and user experience when discussing accessibility. So Avon, in your experience with content creation, what are some important points to keep in mind when building content to ensure it's accessible to all?
Yeah, thank you, Matt. And quite a few things along with that. Certainly, when building content, you have to keep in mind that the content is accessible to your learners in many different ways. Now, there are tools available in the LMS that support that help you create create your course content, or let's just say content, in a manner that is most accessible to your learners. Key things, I mean, before we look at that, let's just look at some of these key items that you should consider in an accessible LMS. There should be a way to assess the needs of your specially able learners. Definitely, you need to identify what needs you have for your specially able learners, and also should have the ability to customize your LMS interface to meet those needs. So as I mentioned, with many LMS systems, you will find settings around that. You will find some tools that help you do it, and also that would help you to ensure compatibility with assistive technology such as screen readers. Screen readers would be one of the most common examples of that. And one of the best practices, I would say, is to incorporate alternative text descriptions along with your images. So anytime you upload an image, you should be able to add an alt text, or maybe an alternative text as a description to that image. So whenever that image would load up into a browser, and many times this is something which users may come across when an image would load up into a browser. For some reason, maybe they may have a poor connection, or maybe an issue with the browser, the image might not load up. So at that point, your text description comes into play and is visually available to the individual learner. Now, part of that is also to have your content, mainly video content with closed captioning functionalities. So when we do, let's say you have a video, and many times when you upload a video, you might not remember to upload a closed caption file along with that. But that's something that should be kept in mind as a best practice. Closed captioning is great. Closed captioning along with subtitles can be uploaded with many LMS systems along with your video. So that's helpful as well. And definitely keyboard accessibility would be one of that. So with many LMS systems, you will find this functionality of keyboard accessibility. Lastly, it is highly important to continuously evaluate and improve the accessibility features that you offer, and identify which accessibility features are needed for your user group. And I'm just going to go ahead and talk about some of these top tips to enhance your accessibility in the LMS content. Now we're talking about particularly a content within a course, or say a particular content within an e-learning course or a training program, right? Now, WCAG compliance is crucial, certainly. And if your LMS is compliant with WCAG, then you should get these tools to make your content more accessible. Firstly, if we talk about text, for text, it is a best practice to include headings and contrast colors. So it's basically visible, and it's neatly visible to your learners um, with disabilities. And then you have options to include links, so including any descriptive links along with your text content is also a helpful way, or a good tip to have. Descriptive links could be, links to some certain pages as a reference, or any resource materials which can be included. And then if we talk about multimedia, there are a few things that you can do with multimedia. We talked about closed captions, and with multimedia mainly being videos, that is definitely one of the most important item, I would say, or a top tip to consider, because most of the online learning happens through a video content, right? many organizations who offer e-learning would prefer creating their content in multimedia format, and a majority of that format would be a video. So a video definitely needs to have closed caption files along with it, or options to generate a closed caption while watching a video. Subtitles and transcripts are also helpful. Subtitles is essentially helpful for an individual who may not understand the primary language of that video. So let's say if the video is designed in English, and maybe if the user is a native Spanish user, then they should have an option to switch to a subtitle. And that way, it just makes it easier for them to understand what the video content is about. And transcripts are also great. Transcripts with many we mostly come across with transcript with web conferencing systems, where if once a video has been played, you can include some transcripts along with that. But having these transcripts are helpful within your video content. So definitely you can have a visual of the video, but you also need a way to read that. So transcript is definitely one of the most important items to consider while building multimedia content. And to be honest, the most important thing with a multimedia content would be an accessible media player. And with that being said, your media player, or let's just say the video player that you have with your system, you need to make sure that this media player will support closed captioning as well as transcripts and subtitles. If it's not, then that's probably not the right choice, or probably not the right tool to create accessible content or accessible multimedia content for your learners. So these are a few things to keep in mind about multimedia. And when we talk about images is, as I mentioned earlier, having a detailed alternative text and an image caption is always helpful. It's just not recommended it's not just recommended for an accessible LMS, but it's widely recommended across web. So if you ask any web developer, they would always be recommending you to add an alt text along with an image caption, particularly for your image content or any pictures that you load into your content. Equations can also be helpful. Equation is actually a feature that allows you to create mathematical equations or display these equations within your content, and it mainly works with Atto editor. So Atto editor is one of the standard editors which supports HTML and these tools. So definitely this is something which you need to look for when you're looking to utilize a system, or when you're looking to create content that is accessible. So just to ensure it's accessible to all types of learners. Tables could be used in many ways. Tables can also be found. Tables is also available with Atto editor, and preferably any HTML editor will provide you with an option to create a tables. These tables can then be used to add caption and summary before the table. You can also include a few rows and columns, maybe a header, and ideally organize your text accordingly. So in order to do that, you definitely need an option to include a table within your text content. So these are a few tips that I would say to consider while working with an accessible system. This is definitely something that you should have, or your system should support. And probably the most important part of that, I would say, would be accessible media player. And because that's essentially the most helpful tool that you can have if you were to build an accessible video or an accessibility compliance video. Now, do have some more items, and actually I'm going to dive into a demo and show you MapleLMS platform and some accessibility tools around the platform. Okay, so here I'm gonna minimize my screen and switch to the LMS. Here I'm logged in as a learner, And with MapleLMS, you do have a dedicated accessibility tool available for your interface. Okay, this can be found on the right-hand corner. And I'll walk you through these options that are available over here. But before I do that, some items around accessibility is it's not just about adding contrast or changing the layout, but it's about having or providing this functionality to your end user. Okay, so with many systems out there, this feature may be available for an administrator or may not be available into an LMS. But it's very important to have it available for an end user. And as you can see, I'm currently logged in as an end user. I'm just going to walk you through a few items around these accessibility tools. Firstly, here are a few options to increase the text size and as well as decrease the text size on my view on my screen. So as an example, let's say if I jump into any of these courses, and we can then see a visual example, or in fact, let's just go back and first see that on the dashboard. So let's say if I wanted to increase the text size, you can simply click on these buttons. And if you notice, that would automatically increase the text size of any text that's available on my dashboard or my view. Okay. Similarly, you have options to decrease these text size, or if you just wanted to reset your preferences and go back to the standard settings, you can click on reset text size. So that allows you to go back and change your text size accordingly. And some options around contrast, which is really helpful for visually impaired individuals. There are options to change it to a high contrast. So for example, if I select that, you will notice now the system is fully into a high contrast mode. We can always switch that to a lowered contrast and also go back to more settings, a more lower contrast, a level down, I would say. So it varies, and depending on a user's needs, an end user's needs, they have these options to change the contrast of the system, the look and feel of the system. So if I reset, we'll be back to our standard settings and the standard look and feel. These are some basic options, but now if I click on launch a T-bar, if you notice on the top, there's a toolbar available which is dedicated for accessibility. This toolbar will provide you with quite a few options. Firstly, similar options that we looked at, the basic ones being increasing the font size or decreasing the font size, as well as if we look at page font settings. Now, this setting will allow your end user to select a font of their choice. So let's say if we go with Georgia and hit apply, that would change the entire font on the platform. Okay, you can always switch that back to site specific and apply, and that would bring you back to a different font size. Now, again, quite a few options are available, and these font sizes can be these would be some standard font sizes that you would find, but you always have options to add more or maybe load more font sizes for your end users, and they can simply select a font of their choice and apply that to the platform. And one more item around that is line spacing. So that's basically the spacing between the text. So if we change that to, let's say, 70% or maybe 80%, and apply that on the platform, you would notice that the spacing between text and these interfaces are changed accordingly. That way, a user can modify the spacing on the platform. If I bring it back to the standard, it brings me back to the standard settings. So that was about font page settings, but there's also a spell checker available. spell checker is ideally helpful to identify any spelling mistakes in your text, and that can be used with a spell checker. With these toolbars, there's also an option for dictionary. So dictionary essentially helps you maybe identify a word on your platform and find the references or meanings to that word right with the help of a dictionary. One more essential item I would say is a text-to-speech option, which is really very important for accessibility tools. So text-to-speech allows you to translate. It would actually voice translate any text that you select on the platform, and ideally that would work in that way. So when we go about doing a text-to-speech, so I've just highlighted this text over here and selected to translate it to text-to-speech. I can then pick a language or the voice of my choice. For example, if you go with Microsoft David English,
Analytic widgets.
that way text-to-speech would work. So you can simply highlight any text on your interface and select your preferred voice, and that would run the text-to-speech options. Some more tools that are helpful, such as word prediction, predicting a word, and changing the styles of your interface. So for example, if we go about changing the style of this page, this will allow you to change the toolbar color, change the text and link color, and also change the page style. So let's say if we wanted to change the toolbar color, here we can select a preference. Let's just say black or a white or a gray. Let's just go with black. So if we hit set, that will change the toolbar color of this accessibility tab, and we can reset that back to the default settings. Okay. Lastly, color overlay. So this is helpful for visually impaired individuals, where they can apply a color overlay on the platform. And let me just show you how that works. So if I select this as an option, so you notice that there's a color overlay on the interface. And again, depending on individuals to individuals, they have options to choose different color overlay styles and apply that on the interface. Okay, so these are some accessibility tools, and actually there are a few more. Sometimes even languages are considered into accessibility. So your system or the LMS should support multiple languages as well. So definitely you should have an option to pick a language of your choice, and that would automatically change the interface or translate the interface to your preferred language. And I have a quick example of a captioned video over here. So if I go to this video, and this video player, as I mentioned, is it supports captioning. So you can upload captioning in not just one but multiple languages along with your video. Captioning is ideally added as an additional file that goes along with the video. So I'm just going to play this video real quick. And now if I turn on the captions from here, let's say English, now the captions would appear on the bottom. Okay, so that would be a fairly simple example of a captioned video. Now, these were just a few tools that you can utilize to create more accessible content. There are definitely more tools available, or more tools can be integrated or can be added to your LMS platform, accessibility tools to your platform. But these would be a few to consider. I would say these would be a few that you must have into your LMS platform, particularly if your end users are, let's say, visually impaired or hearing impaired individuals and need a system that supports accessibility tools. Right? Yeah, so with that being said, I'm just going to turn it over to you. We can go back to the slide.
Great, Evan. Thank you. That was a great overview and really helps to highlight the tools that can make your LMS accessible to all learners. And that's really the goal, is to make sure that you make the achievement of learning available to everyone. I'll just look, doesn't look like we have any questions, but if there's any final questions, feel free to put those in the chat. We're happy to answer them. Hopefully you found this webinar very helpful. We appreciate you attending and your interest in the topic of why your training strategy should be inclusive and comply with accessibility. And we're hopeful that this will support your inclusion principles at your organization. Also, this webinar will be posted on our website for future on-demand viewing within a couple of days, as well as many other webinar topics. So we invite you to visit our website at www.MapleLMS.com. And if you have any additional questions or want to continue your conversation today about accessibility or an LMS, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to hear from you. Our contact information is listed below. We thank you for joining our webinar today. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day.